I am Ajax the Great, son of Telamon, king of Salamis, and cousin to Achilles. Known as Ajax to my people, I was a warrior of immense size, second only to Achilles in strength and valor among the Greeks. My name, though often overshadowed by others in the grand saga of the Trojan War, stands for unrelenting courage, fierce loyalty, and an unyielding will in battle. My story is one of honor and pride, of glorious feats on the battlefield, but also of betrayal, madness, and a tragic end. From the earliest days of my life, I was marked by greatness. My father, Telamon, a warrior who fought beside Heracles himself, raised me to be as strong and as brave as any man could be. I was born for battle, molded by the ancient code of heroism, and driven by the desire to uphold my father's honor. It was my fate to stand among the greatest heroes of Greece, and it was a fate I embraced wholeheartedly. The call to war came when Helen, wife of Menelaus, was taken by Paris of Troy. The kings of Greece, bound by the oath we swore to protect the sanctity of Helen's marriage, were summoned to join Menelaus in retrieving his wife and avenging the insult done to all of Greece. My brother, Teucer, and I sailed from Salamis to join the mighty host that gathered under the command of Agamemnon. With us came the soldiers of our island, men who were as fierce and as resolute as their king. Among the gathered kings, I stood tall, both literally and figuratively, taller than any other man, broader of shoulder, stronger of arm. I was a force of nature. Only Achilles could match me in physical prowess, and though his fame was greater, I harbored no jealousy. I knew my worth, and I knew my role in the coming war. When we arrived at Troy, I was one of the first to leap ashore, carrying my great shield, which was made of 7 layers of hide and bronze. It was an impenetrable barrier that no weapon could pierce, and it became my symbol, as much a part of me as my own flesh. Behind it, I was invincible, a walking fortress on the battlefield. And as the years of siege dragged on, my shield and my spear became the bane of the Trojans. For 9 long years, we fought outside the walls of Troy. The Trojans were brave and skilled, led by their great prince Hector, but they could not break the Greek lines. Every day, the battle raged, and every day, I was at the forefront, fighting beside my comrades. I became known as a steadfast and fearless warrior, never retreating, never wavering, even when the tide of battle turned against us. My bond with Achilles was one of mutual respect. Though he was the greatest of us all, he knew that I, too, was a man of honor and strength. Together with Diomedes, Odysseus, and others, we formed the backbone of the Greek army, a phalanx of heroes who could not be defeated. But the war was not without its tensions, especially between Achilles and Agamemnon. When Achilles withdrew from the fighting, angry over the loss of his prize, Briseis, we all felt the weight of his absence. Without Achilles, the Trojans pressed us hard, and it was in those dark days that I truly proved my worth. When Hector, that mighty prince of Troy, challenged the Greeks to single combat, I stepped forward. No one else dared face him, but I, Ajax, was unafraid. We fought, man to man, and though neither of us claimed victory that day, we gained respect for one another. Hector and I parted as equals, each knowing that we had faced the best our enemy had to offer. But the war continued, and the loss of Achilles weighed heavily upon us. It was then that Patroclus, Achilles' dear friend, donned his armor and entered the fray, hoping to turn the tide in our favor. I fought beside him that day, as we drove the Trojans back from our ships. But even in Achilles' armor, Patroclus could not match the strength of Hector, and he fell in battle. The death of Patroclus brought Achilles back to the fight, and with him came a renewed fury. He slaughtered the Trojans without mercy and finally faced Hector in single combat. When Hector fell, it seemed that the war might soon be over, but the gods, as always, had their own plans. Even with Hector dead, Troy still stood, its walls unbroken, its people defiant. When Achilles himself fell, struck down by an arrow to his heel, the only vulnerable spot on his otherwise invincible body, The Greeks were left to mourn the greatest of our heroes. His body was retrieved, and his magnificent armor, forged by Hephaestus, became the prize over which two men would contend, Odysseus and myself. I, Ajax, who had fought side by side with Achilles, who had never flinched in the face of the enemy, believed that I deserved the armor. I had saved the body of Achilles from the Trojans, preventing them from desecrating it. I had been a constant and unyielding force in battle, and I had faced Hector without fear. Odysseus, though clever and resourceful, was not the warrior that I was. Yet, the decision was left to the kings of Greece, and in the end, they awarded the armor to Odysseus. The betrayal cut deep. I felt that my honor had been slighted, that my years of service and my strength had been overlooked. The armor, a symbol of the greatest warrior among us, had gone to a man of words rather than deeds. My heart burned with anger and shame, and I could not contain my rage. In my fury, I plotted revenge. I intended to kill those who had wronged me, Odysseus, Agamemnon, Menelaus, and the others who had judged against me. But Athena, ever watchful, struck me with madness. In my delusion, I believed I was slaughtering my enemies, but when the madness lifted, I saw the truth. I had killed only livestock, sheep and cattle, thinking them my foes. The shame of my actions was unbearable. I, Ajax the Great, who had never known defeat on the battlefield, had been brought low by the gods and by my own pride. The weight of dishonor was too much to bear. In my despair, I knew that there was only one way to restore my name and cleanse myself of the shame that had befallen me. I could not live with the disgrace, and so I chose death over dishonor. I took my sword, the very sword that Hector had given me as a token of respect after our duel, and I plunged it into the ground. I fell upon it, ending my life by my own hand. I would rather die by my own terms than live as a man disgraced. In death, I found the honor that had been denied to me in life. My fellow Greeks, who had not understood the depths of my pride and my sense of honor, mourned me. They built a great tomb in my honor, and my name lived on in the songs and stories of the Greeks. Though my life ended in tragedy, I am remembered as one of the mightiest warriors of the Trojan War, a man who stood unyielding in the face of the enemy, a man whose strength was matched only by his sense of pride. Odysseus, after my death, recognized the injustice that had been done to me. In his later travels, when he visited the underworld, he sought me out, wishing to make peace. But even in death, I could not forgive him. I turned away, silent and proud, for my honor had been taken from me, and no words could restore it. Though I fell to madness and died by my own hand, my achievements on the battlefield remain unmatched. I was Ajax the Great, the bulwark of the Greeks, the man who could not be broken by any foe. Even the gods, in their capriciousness, could not deny me my place among the greatest heroes of Greece. And so my story, though it ends in tragedy, is one of valor and strength, of loyalty to my comrades, and of an unshakable sense of honor. I died as I lived, fierce, proud, and unyielding.